Hello, this is Father Rich coming to you from the living room of the Our Lady of Peace Rectory. The remote control is not working, so you see I'm going back and forth. I'm here between the image of a very famous woman of the last century and our bar here at the OLP. And it says above it, Sláinte. That's the Gaelic or the Irish call to cheers that you toast with. And you might say that there's not a connection here. It might seem odd to put these two together, but we're going to see if we can tie them together later. But the name of this article is called Journeying to the Truth. And the story of one man his exposure to this woman led him to see the truth in the Catholic Church. So let's go back, though. Back in the 1930s, there was a man, Malcolm Muggeridge. He was English, and he eventually made his way to Russia. He had grown up with a father who was involved in the Communist Party. And so he was, in his early life, was actively part of that party. But the more he got exposed when he went to Russia to the negative side and really the potential evils of what was going on in the Soviet Union, he became more and more critical. And then eventually he went out to the Ukraine. There was talk of these famines in the Ukraine. Of course, the Soviets denied it, and Stalin certainly denied it. But they were the result of these farms that the state had taken in to oversee, to provide food, as we know, in that Marxist kind of philosophy for all the common good. And he went there and found what he had heard, which was extreme famine, devastation, death. To the point where they were burying people every day that were dying, that weren't getting enough food from this communist approach to providing for all people, as they seek to do. So this ideology that he had been taught was the way to how to best live the human life and to seek truth completely failed him. He would write an article for the English and kind of expose the situation in the Ukraine and the Soviet Union. At the threat of his life, he lost his job, and he ended up, obviously not being rewarded for that. They talk about another author for the New York Times that wrote an article denying the famine, and he was given a Pulitzer Prize. So this struggle to see the truth in some of these ideologies that were strong in the 20th century, and he was trying to report on them and understand them. It eventually led him to be in India, where he came across this Albanian nun who was doing these heroic things and living out the Christian gospel that he had never seen before. Serving the poorest of the poor in the streets of Calcutta. There were people dealing with leprosy, people that had been left to die in the streets that nobody wanted to go near. And she and her fellow nuns were bringing them in and loving them and trying to ease their wounds as they were approaching death. And so Mother Teresa of Calcutta was that woman who really drew him in. He developed a friendship with her. He ended up doing a documentary on her and wrote a novel that was called Something Beautiful for God. And that would really bring Mother Teresa into the world spotlight as they became more fascinated with what she was doing there. And she started a religious order with that very identifiable Surrey, their habit of the Missionaries of Charity. And now there's over 600 of these communities throughout the world. I had a chance to live with them and work with them in Milan, Italy for a summer during my seminary years. And really, so remarkable, just their devotion, their prayer life. I was trying to get up early and do a holy hour with them and go to mass. And then the one in Milan, they had a shelter for about 40 men and then about 25 women that were battered and had come from broken homes and failed marriages and whatnot. And they provided for them. And then every day they had a soup kitchen, which fed several hundred people. And so the first couple of days, ended up having to take a nap in the afternoon because I couldn't keep up with these women. And not only that, they were so joyful. The joy of their service, the way they lovingly approached just these tasks of caring for the poor just left a mark on me. And I could see why Malcolm Muggeridge was drawn in by them and developed this friendship and became fascinated with them. So much so that he eventually converted, as I kind of alluded to earlier, to become Catholic, that he found that truth that he was seeking for, lived out by Mother Teresa and her sisters, that he became Catholic. And and really an awesome story. So and when I live with them, one thing you would notice in every chapel you go to with the Missionaries of Charity, Mother Teresa wanted to have a big crucifix and then the words "I thirst" next to them, and quoting Jesus from the cross and that thirst that he has for souls, and how the essay really talks about that thirst that Mother Teresa had for souls, that she was really an extension of that thirst. And then also we usually play off of that where we thirst for God, whether we realize it or not, that he's the ultimate satisfaction of the hunger and thirst of our hearts. We just talked about that in the last essay. But that's there. And that we have so many ways our world tries to, these ideologies and these tyrants try to mandate truth and how the best way to live as human beings, and that they all fail. They've come and gone, but this Christianity remains. And this gift of our Catholic faith, and when it's lived out, especially by somebody like Mother Teresa. So he ends with this kind of playoff of the thirsts of our soul and the thirst of our being. So I'd like to just read the last part of the essay for you. Before I do that, there's another, this is Do It Anyway. It's kind of a poem. It's from the bottom, it says, "The paradoxical commandments hung by St. Teresa of Calcutta on the wall of her orphanage." And so it talks about how the world will reject us and we won't get the results we want. And the people will abuse your help, etc. But she says, do it anyway. So if you've never been exposed to that poem, encourage you to check it out and let it inspire you. But this is the end. So we have these two different ways to drink in of the truth and of the world. Mother Teresa's way, or Stalin and the Soviet Union, the communists, and all these other ideologies we've seen over history. And so this is what he says. It seems to me a battle of drinkers, this debate. We know from her diary that Mother Teresa was given a locution from Christ. His terrible words on the cross, "I thirst," said he. He still does. He is still where we have put him, on the black cross against a blank sky, thirsting, the longing that is more urgent than hunger, thirsting in love for souls in danger of loss. He is the Savior who promises living waters to all who thirst, and who gives his blood as wine for his enemies, yearning to entice them with its taste, the taste of purity, holiness, and truth. It is a heady liquor. To Mother Teresa, it was given to share in that thirst of Christ. And somehow, somewhere in his long life, by the grace of God, the agnostic journalist was given a taste of the wine, Malcolm Muggeridge. The world slakes its thirst elsewhere. It has made itself drunk on ditch water. Let us not do so. For Jesus, we know, is an excellent host. He saves the best wine for last. I thirst, Sláinte. Thanks for joining me. God bless. Have a great day.